Hi, thanks for watching. In this video we're going to cover how to install an 8-node Cloudera install on Refinery's new Hadoop hosting service. So the steps on this video we're going to, we have a pre-flight checklist, things that we're not going to cover in this video, which is installing the name node through our vCloud director. So the name node is going to live on VMware, and installing Cloudera Manager, which is just basically a binary that you run and just takes a couple minutes to install. So instead of going over that, there's lots of other videos on how to do that on the internet. The two steps we are going to do is using a program called Cobbler to install CentOS on 8 of our data nodes. And Cobbler is a tool to be able to manage a large amount of servers through one place. Otherwise, you got to go to each server and do the installs yourself. This thing automates all that. And the last thing we're going to do here is install Cloudera on each of the nodes. So let's go over our architecture here. As I mentioned before, the name node is going to be in our VMware, fully redundant VMware environment. And that's where you want your name node. That's one of the most important servers in your cluster. And over here we have another VM that's going to be running Cobbler. It's a small, just 1 gig VM, 1 gig memory VM that's just going to run Cobbler. And that's going to, as these nodes boot up, they're going to check in with Cobbler here, and it's going to do a CentOS install and get these ready and prepped for the Cloudera Manager to install. Down here we have 8 different nodes. Here's the IPs that we're going to use from them. They're just simply named node 1 through 8, and these are just dedicated servers in a couple spread out over a couple different racks. And then the VMs up here are in our VMware environment. So we're going to get started with our step 1. We're going to do a quick overview of Cobbler and do the install on the 8 data nodes. Okay, let's start with our first step, which is install CentOS on 8 of our data nodes. We're going to use something called Cobbler for this. You can find them at cobblerd.org. This is going to allow us to build out multiple machines just basically with a click of a button. Instead of me trying to go and install CentOS on all 8 nodes one at a time, or even through a manual kickstart file, that kind of gets tiresome, especially if we're dealing with a lot of nodes, which you're going to be dealing with in Hadoop. So we've got Cobbler installed here on a virtual machine, and they actually have a web interface. There's a command line interface and a web interface. So I'm going to go ahead and log in here. And the way it's broken down here, I'm not going to go completely into Cobbler, but just a quick overview of it. Over here we have distros. So we have CentOS. This could be Red Hat. This could be Ubuntu, whatever you want it to be for distributions. We have something called profiles here. And this is where you're going to set up per installation profiles. So for instance, here I want a basic Hadoop node. And so I have something called a kickstart file, and we'll go over that in just a second here. But there's not much, going on here. It's just really there's some things you can do with VMware if you're going to make this a virtual server, but not much going on here. This is just, hey, this is a profile called Hadoop node. The distribution is CentOS, so if we had other distributions here, we could pick one of those. But here's the main part here: is this is a kickstart file, and we'll go over that in just a second. And then down here is systems. So this is the physical nodes for each of our systems here. So we have node 1 through node 8. If I were to hit edit on one of these, this is where we name here node 1. We have we name it our profile as Hadoop node, and you have different statuses here. We just pick production for our lab. Over here you are setting the host name, the gateway, DNS servers. And this is a networking portion of the physical server here. So we're actually using a bonded interface. This one's going to be .50, and we have Ethernet 0 and Ethernet 1. So you can actually, this thing handles bonding, which is really nice, and that's what we're doing in our Hadoop environment. We have, each of our nodes has 2 1 gigabit NICs, and we're bonding those together in case one of the NICs goes out or one of the switches goes out. And then over here we have power management. So we're able to control the physical nodes here because they have Dell remote management cards on them. We're able to reboot the servers from here, which is really nice. So this is the username password, and the each of the servers has this remote Dell management card on it, which has an IP address. So for this node, it's .20, and that's how we're going to talk to it. So we kind of went over the distros, profiles, and systems, and so you notice over here there's something called a kickstart file. So let's look at this real quick. So we have something called a kickstart file, and this is a lot to go over here, but this is just telling this node is when it first boots up, it's going to contact Cobbler, and Cobbler's going to say, okay, here, this is what you're going to do. And we're going to go right into, we're going to turn the firewall off, we're going to disable SE Linux, we're going to do, here's our first boot. So it's going to look towards the CentOS media, which is on the Cobbler server. It's going to set a lot of different things in here, but basically what we're trying to do here is just a vanilla CentOS 6 Linux box, just for Hadoop. So if we come back out of here, so now we have our systems here, and so now what I'm able to do to any of these nodes here is notice it says net boot enabled. And so if I come into all of my nodes here and I say batch actions, I can do net boot enable. That's going to turn all of these on. So what these are going to do now is when they boot up, they're going to boot off their NIC, which is something called PXE or Pixie that you may have seen before. They're going to boot, they're going to contact Cobbler, and now it's going to view this, it's going to run this kickstart file basically, and it's going to go through a full install. So at any time I can come in here and I have different patch actions. So I can use power on, power off, reboot, and this is because I'm using that Dell remote management. So as you can see in the background here, I have a bunch of these pings. So I have 8 different pings running here, and these are for my 8 different nodes. And so the way this works is this thing's going to go out, and one of these nodes is going to boot. It's going to wake up and say, okay, I want to boot. Is there any PXE servers out there? Yep, Cobbler's a PXE server. It says, okay, now I see that your MAC address is .10 and .11. You will now be assigned .50, this 10.155.50, and your host name is going to be node 1. So if I come back over to node 1, that was this, what we're talking about here. This is going to be the host name node 01, and your IP is going to be .50. The way I know that is because if I go down to Ethernet 0, see this MAC address? That's the MAC address of the NIC in node 1. And if I go to the second NIC, this is .11. So you can see 1011 here. So when these things boot up for the first time, since this net boot's enabled, it's going to get assigned this IP address from now on, and it's going to have these because they have these NICs and this host name here. So here's all my different nodes. I've already added all my physical systems here. Now I'll be able to boot to them. Right now I have them all off right now. So let's go in and we can look at one of our nodes here. So I'm actually logging into the Dell remote management card on number 21, which if I come up to here is this node number 2. So we're going to log into node number 2 right now. If I go to power control, right now the host is currently off. And if I go to console redirection, I'm actually able to go right to like I'm sitting in front of the server. This takes a quick second to pop up. Here we go. Well, there's nothing here because the server's off right now. So what we're going to do is we're going to highlight all these nodes and we're going to say power on. What's this going to do now? It's going to go power on all 8 servers. It's going to go through this and assign IPs and host names to each of the 8 servers. And it's going to go through the install process, which is dictated by that kickstart file. So this takes a second or two to pop up here. So this is just like I'm sitting in front of the server. So it's powered up. This is node number 2. This is happening on all 8 nodes right now. This is why I have so many pings running here. This is node 1, node 2, node 3, all the way to node 8 over here. And obviously right now there's nothing going on because they can't ping. So it's booting up now. It's going to go into booting PXE. Here it goes. It's getting here's the MAC address. Now it's assigned .51. So if we come back into here, 51. So I'm on node number 2. So this is the one I'm on right here on the left here. So now what it's doing, it's going to go right into the CentOS. It's basically a hands-free install. So it's just like you're sitting down in front of the server here installing CentOS. Now it just set its IP. It's pinging now. Now you notice these other nodes are starting to come online too. You'll see them start to come on. He's pinging. 7 and 8 aren't pinging yet. There we go. He's pinging. He's pinging. So 7's pinging. And we'll just minimize that for a sec. We got everybody pinging except for number 8. Oh, there he is. Number 8's coming up now. So now they're all going through creating the file system. Since this is 3 1 terabyte drives, this takes a little bit to go. So I'll probably skip through the video here to get to the end of creating the file system on these nodes. Okay, so the disks have been formatted, and now it's doing the actual install of CentOS. About 199 packages here, and once this is done, it's going to go through a post-installation procedure here. This is pretty quick, so I don't think I'll skip through this. This is using the CentOS minimal install ISO, so there's not a whole heck of a lot of packages here. Get those last couple packages there. While that's going here, we'll just bring up the graphic again here. So we have 50 through 57 that we're bringing up right now. Each of these nodes have a NIC, 2 NICs, and they're going to be bonded together against these switches here. We have Cobbler and Cloudera up here. Looks like going on the last package. And what the Kickstart file does is it'll actually reboot. So when this thing's done here, there is a reboot here. So it's going to reboot after it's done with the install. A couple other things to note on this Kickstart file here is when this is done, let's see here, let's see if I could find it here, right here, post system, no PXE. So what this thing is going to do is we don't want, if we come back to here, see it says netboot enabled, we don't want to reboot these after they reboot. We don't want the netboot to be enabled because we don't want to go through the install process again. So what this thing is going to do is once it's done installing, it's going to come here and uncheck these using that URL. So then these nodes will kind of basically stand on their own, and you'll be able to reboot them without them going through the install of CentOS again, obviously. What I'm able to do here is once this thing gets done, I'll show you, I'll refresh the screen. These will be unchecked at any time. If I have a problem with a node or I just want to redo it, I could just click on here and make sure this netboot is enabled and say reboot or power on. And it's going to go through the same process it's doing right now and install. So let's say you add another 10 nodes. You would add 10 nodes in here. I would add 10 more systems in here with their correct MAC addresses. I would light them up, make sure their netboot's enabled, and then I would power them on or reboot them if they're already powered on, and that's it. Then I would go into Cloudera Manager and add those 10 nodes. It's that easy to maintain different kind of nodes using Cobbler. So now it's doing the running post installation script. So I'll probably pause it here because I know this takes a couple minutes, and right when it reboots, I'll unpause the video. Okay, we just finished the installation here. Now it's rebooting. On this ping window over here on the left, this is where we're node 2, so now it's down. You can see the other nodes are right sort of with it. You're starting to see these node 1 and node 3 are rebooting as well. So it's like these are in the lead over here. It's like a horse race. So now when this thing boots, it's set to not. So let's refresh this. See how they're set not to boot, to do net boot anymore? So when this comes up, it's going to boot to local disk. It should not do a PXE boot. Node 7 over here is rebooting as well. It's got its IPs, and now it's going to boot right to CentOS, which is exactly what we need. So now this is happening once the operating system comes up here. It's going to start pinging over here on the left. Let's see if it wins. Oh, no, node 1 beat it. Just by probably a couple seconds here. Bam, there it goes. So these 3 are up. Let's go check the other ones here. 7's up. Looks like these are kind of lagging behind over here. Oh, there he goes. It's node 5, node 4. He's up, and we're going to wait. Let's hear node 8 is up. And this is our last one here. Node 6, we're rooting for you. There he goes. Alright, so let's go check one of them out. So we'll go into node 1. In the kickstart file, you set a password. It's an encrypted password. So let's go look at that real quick. So let's see if we can find the password. Here's the password. So it's encrypted in the kickstart file, obviously. But since it's the same kickstart file, every node has the same password. I just typed it there. Okay, so we have do a DF on here. Here's our drives here. We have 2.6 terabyte available on here. Let's look at the network card. So we have a bonded link here. So we have .50. Here's both of our Ethernet, our NICs. Let's see here. What's SSH to let's call it 5. Let's just go to 5. And it's the same thing, 2.0 terabyte, and then we'll go look here, and this is .54. So now we have 8 nodes that are up. All it was is basically clicking a couple buttons, sitting back and watching it build. Once you have the Cobbler set up with the images, the distros, and your main Kickstart file, it's pretty easy. Alright, we're on to our second step here, which is install Cloudera on each of our nodes. So, as we look at our architecture diagram here again, we go back to that. We have our VM, our Cloudera name node. That's going to live on our VM here, and then so is Cobbler. So if we go into vCloud Director, which is our VMware environment front-end interface, we can see here we have our name node and Cobbler. These are virtual machines running here. So we already have that set up. We have Cloudera Manager, so this is just we just did the install the Cloudera Manager, and this is the initial login that we're going to get. So we'll go ahead and log into Cloudera. We're going to pick the standard, just the free for this demo. Hit continue. Now we're going to type in each of our nodes. So we're actually going to include the name node in here as well, because we need to have services running on that as well. So let's add each of our nodes here. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we'll type this real quick. If I can get my typing correct. And 8. So we're going to look out for the name node, node 1, and then each of these nodes that we've installed through Cobbler has, if we go back to the login here, and in our Kickstart file here, we actually include, down here, we actually include a cat. So we do a cat of all the Etsy hosts, so we put all the host files in here. We could do this with a on-premise DNS, but it was just easier just to get this going. So all of our hosts have this, they know about name node and node 1 all through 8. So we'll come back into here and we'll click search. So it should find each of these. We have the name node and then all the different 8 nodes here. Everything looks like it's good. We'll hit continue. We're going to install most of the package. We're not going to do Impala, just straight CDH. Get rid of our little message there. Alright, so we have We're going to log into each of our nodes. Now it's going to do the install here. And this just takes a couple minutes to install software on each of these nodes, going and downloading the software and installing on the name node in each of our 8 nodes. And then after this, we'll pick which server is going to do what kind of roles. Okay, so that took a couple minutes here. Now it shows we've had a successful install on each of our nodes. I'm going to hit continue. That's going to download and install these parcels here, CDH. So I'll probably do a quick pause on that as well. Okay, that's done installing. Now we're going to the inspect the hosts. So this goes through and does a lot of different checks on each of our hosts. Looks like everything is green. We're going to do just base core Hadoop here. We're going to inspect role assignments. So here we want just our name node and secondary name node on our name node. VM here, we don't want it to be a data node. I want to come down into here, we want job tracker here on our VMware environment, and we're going to put a bunch of these alert, all these monitors, we're going to put them on our name node. So we'll hit continue, and we want to use a custom database, and I just put the database on the name node. Let's see here, and I have a user called CDH, so I installed a SQL server, and I just created one user for it and called CDH. So I'll put the Alright, let's test our connection in each of our 4 databases here. Okay, successful on all 4 of them. Hit continue. I'm not going to make any changes to the configuration. And away it goes. It's going to do the full install of all the different services. Okay, just finished here. Went through all the different services that started up. I go ahead and hit continue, and the Hadoop services are installed. So I'm going to go out here to the main dashboard screen. It shows us all different services here. I'm going to talks about some health issues. Let me go to the services, all services. And let's see here. We got good health on everything here. Concerning health, we'll go to the hosts. See what so it's got everything here. Now it's got a concerning health here, and we'll go figure out what that issue is here. Oh, the host clock. So on the name node, on all of our 8 different nodes, we installed NTP and time synchronization and ran that initially. On the name node, I think I failed to do that, so I'm going to go do that right now and see if I can get rid of this error. Okay, so on my name node here, I logged in and I did an NTP date for time.nist.gov and adjusted my clock. And here, as you can see, at 10:34 it was concerning. About a minute it took, and it was good on the clock. So I'll go back into my host. Everybody's happy here. Go to all my services, and everybody's happy. So as you can see, that was a pretty quick install using Cobbler. Install all the nodes with a base CentOS, and then install Cloudera using Cloudera Manager. Install Cloudera on each of these nodes here. Very easy. Alright, just want to wrap up the video here. Let's go back over our different steps here. We installed CentOS using Cobbler on 8 different of our dedicated server nodes, and then we've installed Cloudera using Cloudera Manager on each of our nodes, and we also installed the name node on the virtual VMware environment. And this is going over our architecture again. We're ready to go. Again, if we had to add more nodes to this, it would be very easy. You would physically install the hosts out here, get the MAC IPs for each of the NICs, put them into Cobbler, and that's it. Power them on, and ready to go. And once they're all installed, like we did with these 8 nodes here, you go back into Cloudera Manager and add the additional nodes, and you're ready to go. So pretty easy to administer here, especially when you have something like Cobbler to install, and then you have VMware vCloud Director for the VM part of things. So it's self-managed by our customers. If you have any questions, please contact us at sales@bitrefinery.com or 855-874-9700. Thanks for watching. Bye.